This episode of Around the Layout is brought to you by Highball Graphics. For over 25 years, Highball Graphics has been providing high-quality decals for railroads in New England, Canada, and beyond. With over 2,000 sets in scales N through G, Highball Graphics has you and your project covered. Highball Graphics specializes in custom decal orders, serving freelance railroads worldwide. Check out their easy-to-use website at highballgraphics.com or email them at info@highballgraphics.com. Hello, everybody, and welcome to Around the Layout, where model railroaders come to tell their story. My name is Ray Arnott. So glad you could join us. It's time once again to find out what's happening in model railroading, and nobody better to bring on to talk about that than the editor of Model Railroad News, Tony Koch. Tony, good to see you.
Hey, Ray, how you doing?
Another month has cranked on by.
There's never anything going on in model railroading. You know, it's sleepy. What, Amherst? Were there even any new products announced? I don't think,
Well, I'll be honest. I'm sure that there was about 1,000 things that were talked about at Amherst, but I was so busy over at our table that.
You were there this year. Yeah.
Yeah. It was what an awesome experience and to be there. But I found out Amherst is totally different from another side of the table. You know, I used to be able to go around and see everybody and didn't have any obligation, and you set that table up and it changes the entire outlook of it. But it was great. But yeah, I'd love to have been able to get around a little bit more.
That's usually what I hear when somebody says, hey, I heard so-and-so announce this or that, or they have this at their booth. Like, yeah, didn't you see it yet? Like, well, no, I can't leave my table. And it's like, oh yeah, well, no, it's very cool. You ought to get over there.
Yeah, so it was a great Amherst, and one of the guys I got to see there is joining us tonight, Curtis Koke from Broadway Limited. Curtis, welcome to the show.
Guys, welcome. Thank you for having me back. So glad to be on tonight.
Awesome. How did you got to go to Amherst, weren't you? You were there, right?
Yeah, that was my first time going to Amherst. I've been with Broadway Limited for just about a year. I'll be a year next month.
Yeah.
So I had never been to the Northeast, let alone to Amherst. So that was really fun, checking out a whole new region of the country and meeting a lot of people, talking to a lot of people about different things coming up. Met Ray, met a bunch of other people too. Just a blast. Really, really exceeded my expectations.
Isn't it an incredible show? It's such an incredible show.
Oh, yeah.
People always say there's no show like it. It's such a big show. You listen to John Sacerdoti talk about it, and you think, oh, but it can't be. But until you go, Amherst is just all the different buildings, and it's mind-boggling.
And it's a really great way to start off 2024 because it's right in January. And it's usually all manufacturers have different announcements like we did too. So it's always great to see what new stuff is coming out and get to be able to talk to new people and talk to customers directly, get to hear what they want to hear. Matt Williamson and I were there, and Matt probably took about 6 pages of notes from customer requests of stuff that they want to see us make. So that's always great to hear and great to see people wanting to see new stuff. And we're definitely excited to see what 2024 brings for BLI.
Wow, very cool. And yes, you guys had some neat stuff. The surprise stuff too, that again, like those Pensy heavyweight cars, and we'll get into that stuff here in a second, but yeah, there were a lot of things. I was like, oh, wow, that is very cool.
Yeah, and even more so, besides the heavyweight cars too, we had a lot of new samples. The Shay that we have shown previously, it was there. It's at the World's Greatest Hobby Show with us this weekend. And it's also, we were really hoping to bring one of the new Diecast ST70 Aces, but it literally arrived the day Matt and I got back from the show, from the factory. So we were, again, hoping to bring that and show that because we had a lot of people asking about that too. Like I said, unfortunately, we didn't have it, but we'll have it at future shows going throughout this year.
I saw it posted, I think, on Facebook, and I think I shared it over some of the magazine pages, and I grabbed the picture to put in Model Railroad News because it was so exciting to see those two SD70 Aces with the diecast bodies. That like, wow, that's awesome.
Yeah, and the brass parts, there's very little plastic on that thing. Still early sample, so there's details and stuff subject to change on that, but it's just really cool to see that whole thing come together, and it weighs just under 2 pounds, like 1.9 something like that. Yeah, wow. So it's just under 2 pounds, and it so far has pulled early tests have showed that it pulls about 160 grams. So we're hoping to make a little bit more refinements and see if we can get that up a little bit more, because we think that there is room for more pulling power within them.
Wow.
But we're definitely excited to see where that project takes us.
That is so unique and such an interesting, again, from Broadway, that's always had exciting and new stuff for you'll be at 20 years in a couple of years. I think it was mid 2000s was Don't
Just
Operate
over
in
20
Silence.
years. 2001 was when we were founded. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. But very cool.
There was a couple things that you and I had talked about, and I'm really interested into, some of these announcements you made. And one of them that was really neat, I want you to explain a little better, because I may have caught part of it, but honestly, not all of it. Tell us about what you got going on with this membership club that you've got going on, Curtis.
Yeah. So the Conductors Club, basically what it is, customers have the opportunity to be a yearly subscriber to us. And I think that kind of gets people caught off guard. It's $30 a year. And what it is that you get a bunch of additional perks with the Collectors Club. So with that, you get quarterly newsletter that'll be emailed to Conductors Club members, who will get insight as to what new projects we're currently designing, what new projects we're working on, any price points of what we're getting, that sort of stuff. So some really more in-depth details. A lot of people have loved signing up and reading the Broadway flyer because it gives some unique insight into us. We're hoping to go more in depth on some of that stuff in this new newsletter for club members. They get an additional 10% off our outlet store on refurbished products. So when they create an account and they sign up, they automatically get that 10% off all products on our outlet store. We're going to offer member merchandise, so like hats and some giveaway items, some artwork. But the big thing here, there's two big things that I think is really worth people getting their membership, is that they get a VIB product suggestion portal. We're also doing an additional year warranty on BLI products that were purchased in 2024 and into the future. So if you just got your GS4s coming in, or if you have a Reading T1 and N-Scale coming in and you are a member, as long as you register it on the website and make a note that you are a Conductors Club member with your membership number, you automatically get that additional year. So you're already 1 year warranty from us, standard becomes 2 years, which is nice. But the big thing is that we're going to be doing once a year an exclusive HO and N-Scale locomotive offering. And the big thing here is that people, I think, got a little confused as to they're paying $30 and then they're going to have to pay, maybe MSRP or something on an HO scale big boy or an N scale big boy if we're doing that as an exclusive. That's not the case. Basically, what it is that you get it if you were to get an exclusive paint scheme or a road name from us, road number. Like the example we used at the show was if we were to remake our HO scale Union Pacific FEF3 locomotives, and we offered it in Greyhound with 844 or 8444, both models that we haven't made in HO, they would get that instead of like maybe $500 or $600 through their dealer. They could get it directly from us for $300. And it would be just that exclusive paint scheme. It'd be a one-time thing, once a year thing that they would get. And same thing would go for N-scalers. So if we made an N-scale big boy and maybe we made 4014 with Cole, or maybe we made one of the like a different fantasy scheme or something like that, instead of buying it direct from their dealer for $400, $500, they could get it from us for $300. And stealth would also be included in that. So you would maybe get it for $250 from us direct. So that's part of the big benefit of that, is that you get these exclusive paint schemes or road numbers or locomotives of something we've already done. So just to kind of clarify for any dealers that are listening, this isn't going to be included with every new locomotive we announce. It's one locomotive once a year of some exclusive thing that we haven't done before. So that way it's not interfering with dealers who are buying new models from us. They can still have their customers go directly for them to get their GS4s or what have you. And then maybe 2 years down the road, we'll do 4449 in a fantasy scheme for a different Western Pacific scheme or something like that, or maybe 4449 in black with the big bold SP or Southern Pacific lettering on the tender, something like that we haven't done before, but that would definitely garner attention for it.
Wow. Oh, and those GS4s. I already saw somebody. Are they? I guess they're out or something. Somebody has a picture of a Western Pacific, which was that. Is that
was a Train World exclusive?
Yeah. And they had it with, of course, a CZ the streamlined cars behind it that
Yeah.
probably you guys, because you guys made the best in HO ever on those. And they said, this looks so great on my railroad. I'm like, well, it really does. Yeah, that is very cool.
Yeah. Those GS4s just arrived. People have been waiting for those and the N-Scale T1s for a long time. And part of the problem is that Chinese New Year is approaching. And so everybody, and not even just train manufacturers, everybody is shipping stuff out of China. So at this point of the year, it gets so backlogged so quickly, and customs can hold on to stuff of ours or of anybody's, and really they don't have to tell us why. And so we're just kind of left sitting there waiting, and no matter how hard we try, sometimes we just won't get an answer, and then they finally show up. But we did purchase to air the sold ones, and so they would get here at least a little bit quicker instead of shipping them on the boat where they'd be taking about a month or so. So it really cuts down on the time for that. But yeah, those GS4s just arrived, and I know a lot of people have been posting videos and photos online and on social media, and it's so cool to see people's reactions and seeing what they have to say. A lot of positive stuff, and people are already loving those things. So like the Western Pacific ones too. I've seen the same photos or videos that you're talking about, Tony, with the Zephyr and a few others too. So it's really cool to see.
So now on the Conductors Club, I assume the website, or is there a special part of the website, or is it a menu tab? How do you find out more?
Yeah. So BroadwayLimited.com/products/conductors-club-membership. I know that's a little bit of a handful. Okay. And Ray, I'll maybe send you the link to that if you want to include that into the description so people can find it. But if you also just simply Google Broadway Limited Conductors Club, you'll find the link there too, first pop up. And it is a little bit of a slow launch because we're still working on details as to what that first exclusive locomotive is going to be. We have our web team working on creating an actual portal for people to make product suggestions and to make, have an individual web page for them to go to so they can see all the benefits that they're getting, right out of the get-go with the membership and the warranty and all that sort of stuff. So we're still working on it behind the scenes on getting that whole portal, like I said, rolled out. But yes, you can go and already purchase it right now on our website, Broadway-Limited.com. Just search Conductors Club and you'll find it.
I don't know about you, Tony, but I think, an extra $30 a year, and then you just on, the amazing benefits, but just to tack on another year of warranty onto a purchase for a $30 a year membership. I think that's a really great deal.
That's a neat thing, of course, with the exclusive, the once a year locomotive thing. Me as a collector, it'd drive me nuts if I wasn't a Conductor Club member. It's like, oh, I gotta have that, and that's the only way I can get it. It's like, yeah. So.
Well, and then of course you're probably gonna have people who are gonna buy it and then maybe sell it on eBay. And if you're not a club member, you're gonna be already shelling out probably more than what the eBay prices will be, on that. So it's just worth the $30 because you get a lot of perks to it. And you already get a pretty good discount on our outlet store for refurbished models anyways, if there's stuff that you're looking for. To get an additional 10% off of that too is just another great perk too. And then the warranty, as you guys were just mentioning, is another big one. But I think a lot of people, because I was just talking about how many people were, submitting requests to us for stuff to make, the product suggestion portal, I think, is going to be really, really useful for not only just our members, but for us, because we'll get to actually have a tally as to what people are wanting and probably help us influence more into what we want to make as that set exclusive or for future projects of new locomotives altogether. So I think that's another big benefit if people want to have their voices heard, besides commenting on our Facebook page of, oh, I hope you make a GS4 and N scale, or boy, I hope you make this an N scale or HO scale. They can have a place to directly tell us, and we'll be able to physically see how many people are requesting an N scale GS4, how many people are requesting an HO scale USRA Pacific, or whatever the project may be. That's just a huge benefit to customers too.
That Broadway flyer is the other thing I wanted to point that out. You mentioned that the Conductors Club is going to have its own newsletter, but boy, if you're not signed up for and how long? Maybe 6 months. How long have you been doing that?
I think it was like September or maybe August, something like that when I started that. Yeah.
And it is excellent. I mean, almost everybody's got newsletters. I get so many, and some of them I look at and I don't, but that one, every time there's something like, oh, I hadn't seen that before, or, oh, that's neat. That you really
that's
do.
The point.
You pack that with good stuff. It's not this is just Broadway asking me to reserve my whatever now. Like, I always find neat stuff in that, in the Broadway.
And that's the whole point. The more fun stuff we can share is the better. The last flyer that went out last month, I think had way more of a reaction than I kind of expected. And I think a lot of that came with not only the new announcement we made at Amherst with the PRR business cars and the 5-car sets and everything there too, but the UP business cars.
Yes.
I'm in several different Facebook groups of UP modelers. And of course, I don't comment on anything because I don't want to, have my influence kind of be, out there for some of that stuff. But just the very positive reaction that we got to that. And I think that's just the tip of the iceberg for us. If these UP business cars and PRR business cars do well, that just opens up the door to so many additional, theater cars and like the UP power cars with the big hump on the top. Yeah. It just opens the door for so many other opportunities for us. So to see that kind of reaction and seeing what people are excited about in that aspect of the hobby is just so rewarding. And it gives us a better idea too. It's like, dang, these are pretty popular. Maybe if we can, is there a Norfolk Southern version we can do? Is there a BNSF version we can do? Like the possibilities are endless with those sort of things. Mm-hmm. So it's fun to share that stuff, and it's fun to see people's reaction for sure.
And yeah, I think the UP, that's where I first saw those UP business cars, and was talking with my assistant editor and some reviewers. I'm like, wow, did you see this at Broadway? Starting about doing UPs like Kennefic and the business cars. Like, oh yeah, I did see that. I can't believe that. Those would be awesome. And you guys do some great
those 3D renderings. We still have a couple tweaks to make to them. So we're still in the design process of that. So I can tell you that we're working on Kennefic 119, Feather River 114, 101 is Lone Star / Lincoln. At some point in like the 2010s, it got renamed, but basically the cars are going to be modeled as they're modern day. So they would go perfect behind your big boy. A lot of people have also asked us about the paint on those cars too. We are working our best to try to make sure that they match the Walthers coaches that everybody has if they're modeling the UP business train. So we're going to work to get the paint matched on those too. And so far, there's going to be a lot of great lighting features. You're going to have the tail light. You're going to have the green tail light at the top. Ditch lights, interior lights, those things are going to be really decked out. I think people are going to love those too. But I can't wait for that announcement because we're doing all 5. I said 3 of them already, but 102 and 103 are the other ones. And those are going to be perfect because I don't know if with the Super Bowl coming up, there's been videos of the actual business train going to Las Vegas, and all 5 of those cars were on that train. So it even fits modern day. So if you don't like steam, you could still put it on your business train and it'll fit in right at home. So we're really excited for those to be announced, hopefully in the next couple months. That was
a fantastic announcement. And yeah, the Penske cars, I really felt like I was kind of broadsided on those. You've done that P70 coach, and then I see all the list of these Penske cars, and it was like, oh yeah, well, why wouldn't they do? There's an open OBS, there's that combine.
The PB70 combine. And those will have details. We worked with the Pennsylvania Railroad Historical Society on both of these designs for the business cars and the combines. And they'll have really good era-specific details. So we're having a 30s version with the 30s paint scheme on that, 40s and 50s version with appropriate details such as AC units and that sort of thing. And then on the business cars, we're doing one in the 30s paint and 5 others of different road names and road numbers. Or car names, not road names, but car names. So like Pittsburgher, Quaker City, 120, a few others, and all have individual lighting in that as well. So you'll be able to have the platform light turn on and off. They'll have the tail lights on the back. So those cars are going to be really great too. Perfect accessory for any sort of Penske modeler. And the PB70s we're really excited for too. And to get a 5-car set, you get a PB70, and then you get 3 P70 coaches, and then you get a business car on the back of it too. So it's a perfect all coming together with all those cars.
Awesome. Yeah. Oh yeah. Very exciting stuff on that one. And then I guess, was it also in the flyer, or where did I see mention my InScale guys said, hey, was there mention of the recent HO Jeep 3035s as being considered at least, or you're looking at InScale?
Yeah. So the GP30s and 35s are both really successful projects of ours. So we're going to probably look into putting it in N scale too. We also get a lot of requests for N scale shark nose units. And I can share with you guys first that we are working on N scale shark nose units.
Cool.
So that'll be another diesel that'll be coming to the N scale market, both A and B units. But yeah, the 30s and 35s we're also looking into bringing to N scale as well. Because again, those projects, the GP30s in particular, we were, I think, 97% sold out or 96% sold out on those. Really successful locomotive of ours. And I know the 35s were on the cover of your magazine, Tony, and that was fun to see, the CB&Q and the BNSF version too. So overall, lots of great stuff coming to N scale in the future. And we've got some other steam locomotives in the works too for N scalers. We're working on designing the Santa Fe 3751 Northerns in N scale right now. And we're also working on bringing the UP FEF3s to N scale as well. So those are also in design. We're working on several other steam locomotives in the works right now, but we're gathering data packages for all of that stuff. So we're trying to see if it's feasible first, and then we'll eventually announce what we're really working on, or hard working on, not hardly working on. It's late here. Wow. I've been up all day.
Oh.
I think I'm going to have to join the Conductors Club, because we were talking earlier before we hit the record button about GP35s, and I've got suggestions, but I think I'm going to have to become a member of the Conductors Club to get that submitted for my requests. But
we've got a lot of good requests from different paint schemes for both the 30s and 35s. And I think those are going to be, especially the 30s. I know we heard from a lot of Reading fans that they wanted GP30. So those will probably be in the next run of HO scale ones. We got a lot of other different paint schemes that we're bringing to those in HO, but we've heard from the N scalers. They want one more steam and more of the diesels that we've offered into N scale. So the 30s and 35s will be coming to N scale eventually. We still got to get the designs work and all that stuff down, because you can only fit so much into an N scale locomotive, but we're going to work our hardest to make sure that it's just as equivalent to the HO scale ones in terms of details and all that stuff.
So now that we're about 4 or so of the new diesels into the stealth thing, how's the stealth saying? How is it selling? Because again, that was, I know, in talking with some of the folks at Broadway over the years, well, people say this, but we don't know. So, okay, we've had stealth. It's been there for a while. The sound ready, standard DC. How's it doing?
It's doing okay. We'd like to see more. We do a lot of lower quantities in stealth, especially N scale. We actually had a couple of projects in N scale that we oversold on stealth, which was a good sign. Those being F units, and then the USRA Mikados, we sold a good amount in stealth. So we actually had to convert some of our Paragon ones to stealth to help fill those orders. But the other ones in HO scale, those tend to be, depends on the project. Like the GS4s, I think a lot of people bought into the Paragon one because we were sharing some of the sound sets that we were using earlier on. So people were loving the whistle, they were loving the bell, the chuffs, all that sort of stuff. And I think that helped people see that the Paragon 4 sound sets is just amazing compared to other sound sets that we've had in the past. And even more so, the stealth ones, people still have their preferences of, they want to add their Tsunami decoder or their ESU decoder, or even just a Digitrax decoder with no sound. But having the option is a big thing for that. But the big thing with stealth is that while we are still offering stealth, if we could see more stealth numbers increase, we would be more inclined to offer maybe a higher quantity number. But usually stealth takes a little bit more of a while to go along the road and sell. But overall, okay, I would say we're happy with what's been done with it, but we'd like to see more at some point. And I know a lot of HO scalers have been buying into stealth. I've seen comments on our social media pages of like the SD70 Ace, the diecast one that we've got coming out. A lot of people have said that they're going into the stealth version for that. Which is great. Glad to see that people are interested in the model and everything. But we're really inclined to see some more growth in the stealth department. And the GS4s just being recently, we didn't have those in stealth because we were too far along in that project to offer them in stealth. But every project, at least here on out, if the sales keep growing and growing, we'll keep having more offerings in stealth, but we'd like to see more than what we've seen so far.
Do you see stealth as being kind of a choice of somebody that's maybe doing it is it an economic choice, or really is it over the choice of decoder?
I would say it's a little bit of a mix. I think most of them are by decoder choice. I think because the level of detail is still the same for the sound versus the non-sound. I think people are really picky about decoders, will stick with one decoder type for all their locomotives. Right. I know several guys from clubs that I've been a part of in the past, they stand by ESU decoders or they stand by Tsunami decoders, and all their locomotives have that one decoder type. So I think that's where the benefit of stealth is that you can get your decoder type. And the other thing is the speaker's included. So they're not having to install an additional speaker into the locomotive. It's already included. So it's literally just plug in your decoder and you're good to go. Some lighting features and stuff won't be the same compared to the Paragon 4 model, but you'll still get your features of your directional lights, ditch lights, all that sort of stuff. And deal even more so on the motor control stuff too. People have seemed to prefer ESU's decoders for that sort of stuff. But I do think there is a good percentage of people too, besides the decoder stuff, they want to get a model. Maybe they still have DC. I have heard from a few people when we were at Amherst that still operate their layouts on DC, and they prefer the stealth ones because they can still get a good model, but get it at a pinpoint on their layout where they can run it on DC. So there's that. But I think the majority, if I had to give you maybe a percentage, I would say maybe 65 to 70% are more towards decoders, and I would say the other maybe 30-ish% would be probably more preferring about the cost. We have seen some people say that it's more cost effective for them. And the hobby in general, even though it's doing great, it is an expensive hobby. I hear from a lot of other customers too. And that was another influence for us for the Conductors Club, was that people might want to get a sound model, but they just simply can't afford it. And for us to have an exclusive model that they can still get, that they're going to love, but at a more affordable price point, I think that opens up the doors for so many other opportunities. So especially for $30 a year, and you get so many other benefits to it. If you have some stealth models, you get an extra year of warranty on those, so there's a lot of great things that the Conductor Club can kind of tie into it with the stealth line. And we've seen other people that have done pretty interesting stuff too with soundboards and sounds and all that sort of stuff on the stealth line. So, but to answer back to your question, Ray, I would say that majority, I would say, prefer a specific decoder type, and that's why they would get a stealth model.
Well, I think it also bodes for guys like Tony or collectors and maybe don't need all the, fancy stuff. It's going to sit on a shelf and look good up there without, all of that. So it definitely helps with that as well.
I tend to, I always want one with everything for whatever road name I think I might really operate. But then that second or third road name that I just got to have, sometimes that makes the difference of, well, I was going to buy two, but I decided to buy three, and I made two of them non-sound, and it worked, so sometimes it's the economics of that I end up with that one more that, well, I wasn't going to do that, but if I can get it, for and I don't need it for what it's going to do, it's going to basically be an item I'll look at and put back in the box. So, yeah.
Tony, did you hear him say diecast?
Yeah.
I'm curious about this diecast stuff.
Have you not seen it yet?
I've seen some pictures, but I'm definitely interested in hearing about it.
I know I sent you that picture of it. I mean, this is incredible. Yeah.
It looks like a spaceship, somebody said to us in a direct message. It looks like a spaceship because of just the silver plating on it. But yeah, those SD70 Aces, first samples we got. If anybody's coming to any of the future shows, we're going to be in Cleveland in March for the World's Greatest Hobby Show, Rocky Mountain Train Show, and a few others. We're going to hope to bring those samples to those shows. So if you haven't seen them and you want to see them up close, you can. Some people ask, well, there's a couple of plastic parts on there, which there is, but those plastic parts are strategic because it allows us to do to keep the tooling costs down for road specific details. Some railroads, like the version that we have here at the shows, is the CN version, Canadian National version, and the fireman's side I think the air conditioning unit, or the units behind the cab. I can't think of the name off the top of my head, but the striping and the alignment on that is different compared to the BNSF version or the Union Pacific version or what have you. So that allows us to at least put a plastic part there to make sure that that's accurate to the prototype. Same thing with the fans on the top near the rear of the locomotive too. Those are also different, determining on heights and fan placement, that sort of thing. That allows modelers the ability to see those road specific details on there too. So we're hoping to make some adjustments too, because we did see that, some people were saying about the ditch lights being a little too small. Some people wanted to see some of the handrails be a little bit more straight in a line. So we've made it clear that to our factory that these are adjustments that we have to make, and they're pretty good about making those adjustments to it. But overall, it's fun to see how much that thing can pull. Early tests, we've got about 150 plus grams of weight pulled on that, but those are just the earliest tests, and this is our first sample. So I'm sure that number is only going to go up as time goes on and as we start getting more painted samples and stuff in. But the model weighs just under 2 pounds. It's like 1.9 something pounds. So it's got a lot of weight to it. It's going to have a lot of pulling power to it. Perfect for your coal trains if you have live load coal cars that you run on your layout, or you use it for fast freight intermodal service, or manifest freights, whatever you're going to use it for, or in helper service. You're going to put it in a DPU on the back. It's got a lot of oomph to it. So we'll have so hopefully some more samples come in the near future, to painted samples too, because I know a lot of people want to see the paint work, especially on some of those heritage units. So we want to hopefully get some of those in at some point. But yeah, that thing weighs a ton, and it's going to be a fun model to have on your layout if you're a modern era modeler.
Yeah, so tell me a little bit about this. You're talking about some of the benefits of having this in diecast, but I guess going back to the question, why diecast? I mean, what's the advantage of it, and what's is there a big collection appeal kind of thing to it?
Yeah, so we saw with steam locomotives that a lot of people, customers we hear from the daily, is that they love our steam locomotives because they can pull. For example, my FEF, 844, I can put 20 of the Union Pacific passenger cars behind it, make it look like a prototypical excursion train, and it'll pull it no problem. Up a 2.5% grade, 3% grade, it pulls the train really well. And diesels, we've had some good success with diesels, selling them and everything, but we don't have the pulling power compared to the steam locomotives. And we wanted to kind of see if that, not only if just the same method would be there, but would customers in particular want to see their diesels, like one lone ST70 Ace of ours pull, 70 to 80 auto racks, which sometimes you do see on the real railroad.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, sure.
Especially in the PSR days, you'll see one locomotive at the front, one in the middle, or one in the back. So depending upon which railroad you model, but overall, the weight of a diecast model adds a lot more tractive effort for the model to pull. And we've seen that with our steam locomotives, and we've decided to try it out with diesels and see if we can get the same results. Because like I've said, our customers who have our steam locomotives love that they can pull a weighted freight train. Somebody I saw at the Amherst show had a 120 car coal drag behind one of our N scale Y6Bs. Just one N scale Y6B. And I don't know if the cars were weighted or not, but to see a Y6B lead a 120 car coal drag like a snake around that modular layout was so cool. But in general, to see that sort of extra weight, not only just in HO, but in N scale too, for steam locomotives. And we might do N scale diesels in diecast at some point. We haven't decided that yet. We really want to see what the feedback is from people, from our HO customers first, and to see what the industry kind of says in terms of customers across the board, what they want to see and what they think of these diecast diesels. But to answer your question, Ray, the big benefit is pulling power. The other benefit is with metal parts like brass horns, brass metal handrails, and all that sort of stuff. It just adds to a little bit more of the weight, but it also adds to more sturdier weight on the train and more sturdier details. So plastic handrails have a tendency, they can bend either in or out depending upon how you package the model. Right. And you won't have that happen, or if they do bend, you can always still straighten them out much more easier than the plastic ones. So in terms of details, it would be, you'd have a very consistent looking, accurate SC70 Ace. And that's another big benefit too. And we've heard from a lot of diesel modelers that have wanted that. They've wanted to have some brass handrails and brass parts. And so far, the Aces have looked pretty good on all aspects of that.
And Ray, it's got, and I think they had this in the AC6000. I think I have one that does this, but it's going to have smoke output, right? The 70
Yeah, smoke output too.
metal,
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. And we're going to try to see, I don't know if Joe Goddard's gotten to this at all yet, but Joe handles our sounds and handles a lot of the evaluation functions. And I think he was going to try to see if there is a way that when you throttle up and there might be some sort of sensor where we could get the smoke to come out more like it's hauling a heavy load and it's, throttling up, and you can see that visually through the smoke coming out of the stack. I don't know how far he's gotten along in that, if it's even plausible at this point, but I know that was an idea that we had that we think could be implemented into the Aces. And I think Joe's working on one of the other samples that we have back at the offices in Florida.
Very cool.
Amazing direction we're going, huh?
Isn't it
to be able
always
to
new
haul this
stuff?
stuff? Yeah. Awesome.
Yeah. I have one other thing I wanted to ask about before we run out of time. I don't know how many times I've done this where I have rechargeable batteries and such. I leave them plugged in somewhere, whether it's for a camera, whatever. And then you can't leave this stuff plugged in all the time, but you don't know. And then if you don't have it plugged in, it's not ready to go when you want it. And I saw you doing a video recently, and as you started talking about this little gizmo thing you're selling, it's like, oh, wait a minute. Yes, I need one of those. So tell me about what is this? Yeah,
so it's called the Charge-o-Matic. That was a product designed by Danny Yang, one of our employees at Broadway, and Bob Gruba, who's also a big innovator in terms of coming up with ideas and stuff like that. But basically, the best way to kind of describe it is that it's basically a long-term kind of an outlet timer. And it's designed to keep your battery-operated products kind of ready to go without overcharging it. It's kind of like you might have like a generator at home or a flashlight, a jump starter box, portable power station, power tools. Like if you're working on your layout and your handy-dandy DeWalt drill battery needs to be recharged, but you don't know if you leave it on the charger, it could easily drain the battery, because we've heard from before of other products, especially like cell phones too. You don't want to overcharge it. This, you could set it to basically up to 24 hours, and you could set it up to 99 days. So you could set it for maybe, let me think of an example here. Like we had if you wanted to charge your drill battery, you use it all day, and you can set it on the charger, and for once a day or once every 30 days, that's probably a better example. Once every 30 days for 8 hours, it'll charge your battery. So if you're constantly on the go using that and everything, it'll charge basically anything that you have that's battery operated, and we'll charge it to however you want to set it. So personally at home, I use it for our lawnmower batteries. It takes about 4 hours to charge up our electric lawnmower. So I set it for every 14 days. I'll put the battery on, and it'll charge it to full, and then I have it ready to go, and then it'll turn off. So it'll deactivate after 4 hours. And again, not overcharging it. You could still keep it plugged in, and it's ready to go for the lawnmower in a week, 10, 14 days. I think here in Florida, if you have a generator for when like hurricane season and stuff is coming around, you can use it to keep your generator charged. So in case you were to lose power or anything like that, your generator will be ready to go. It's way better to have it ready to go than to when you find out you need it the most and it's not ready, So especially in situations like that. But it's such a cool, unique thing. It's available on Amazon right now. If you do want to find it, you can find it on our website. Just go to the outlet store page on our website, and it's like one of the first things that pops up on our page if you go onto the outlet store. But there's I think it's also on Factory Direct Hobbies too. I think they're selling it there too. So there's several different places you can get it, but on Amazon is where you can commonly find it, and it'll be shipped to your home from Amazon. But yeah, really neat little device that's super helpful around the house and around the layout. I saw some guy get it, and he said he was using it. He has the it's like the throttle that has the EMD stand look on it. I can't think of what it's
Oh,
called.
yeah. Proto throttle.
Proto throttle. Yes, thank you.
Mhm.
And he uses it to charge the batteries on that for when he's using it. So it's perfect for stuff in the hobby or even just around the house if you don't need it for your layout, but you could use it for other things too. It's perfect for that sort of thing.
It's a neat little, and when you said lawnmower, that's exactly, I want to get one for Texas because down in Texas, I've got a battery lawnmower, which works amazingly. I bought it thinking this thing isn't going to be able to cut grass. And yeah, it does a great job. And I got a battery weed whacker, but we never have them plugged in, or we leave them plugged in and then they go off and then you go to use it and it runs for about 30 seconds. Like, oh no, yeah. Cause it had been sitting there plugged in for, 2 weeks. So I wanted to get one for that. And then up here in Missouri, well, I probably need both places too. Now that I think about it, my Nikon, the batteries for my Nikon camera, same thing there. And it's got a thing that you can put it in, but it charges them up, turns it off, and that's it. So
Yeah.
Again, I go back and that spare battery I want to grab is only about half charged because it's been sitting there doing nothing, or it went dead and it just lost its charge. And the minute I heard that, I'm like, that would keep that backup battery I bought actually alive all the time. Yeah.
Yeah, and it's really unique. It's again, Danny and Bob just did such a great job and kind of having that design for it and everything like that. And you never know when you're going to need something like that, but it could be a really useful tool around the house. And I think if you just need another reason to add a little fun little gadget around your house, it's another example of that too. You can always find great little gadgets like that on Amazon. I'm always shopping on Amazon, not only just for train stuff, but for other stuff too. It's just a great little gadget for you to add to your house for lawnmower batteries or anything else like that too. My dad was saying that he was going to get it and he was going to use it for his drill. He's actually, my parents are in the process of downsizing. So my dad's taking down his layout. And so he is going to use it for that to keep his drill and stuff all charged up and ready to go. So, but it's just a great little tool to have if you're in the need of something like that.
I'm still waiting I need a pair of choo shoes in 10 wide.
Any specific sounds you want coming out of those choo shoes, Tony?
I think I'd like to have I'm older, a first generation, maybe EMD 567.
Okay.
Can I have that as
F units
sound?
or something like that?
Yeah, F units. That'd be very cool. Yeah, with kind of that nasally honk horn, like your F units have. Yeah.
Those could be good. Cool. Those could be funny if we could do a choo shoes, but with Crocs, because like the bulldog nose. You could do something like that on the front of a Croc. I think that would be
awesome.
Really cool. Yeah.
That would be cool. How about that? I could use a pair. Well, it sounds great. Remind us again, what shows we get to see at Rocky Mountain in April?
Yeah, so I'll be at the Cleveland World's Greatest Hobby Show. That's coming up in March. Rocky Mountain Train Show in April. We plan on being at the NMRA show in Long Beach. I'm going to try to make it out your way, Tony, to see if we can go to the RPM meet in St. Louis. We were talking before we were recording about that. So I think you've convinced me enough. I just have to convince the bosses enough to let me go.
I'm gonna send you an email with Lonnie Bathurst's address, and we'll get that set up. Yeah.
And then we'll also be at Train Fest come November. New location, which I've been going to Train Fest for years because I grew up in Chicago, so Milwaukee was just a hour-ish drive for me. So I will be going to Train Fest as a vendor, not as or I guess as a manufacturer more so than a vendor. But instead of a customer, I'm going as a exhibitor. So that'll be a fun experience too. And a new location, like I was saying, that's pretty cool. Instead of at the West Allis State Fairgrounds.
The old, yeah. How about that, Ray?
Yeah, that's going to be great. I look forward to seeing Curtis. I'm hoping again to make it out myself to the St. Louis RPM. We'll have yet another. You're going to have to get a bigger Lincoln, Tony. We're going to have a lot of people piling in. So we'll have to put Bandit on our lap and we'll all go for a ride and go do some rail fanning. So
rent an RV or something.
Yeah.
There you go.
Figure it out. So, well, Curtis, thank you so much for joining us here on the What's Happening in Model Railroading show, and look to see you down the road.
Thank you guys for having me. We'll talk to you very soon.
Well, Tony, some awesome stuff coming out of Broadway Limited.
always innovative and fun stuff. They always have been, that's kind of been their thing from, that one water tower they have that the little spout actually comes down, and I think it even makes water gurgling sounds as it goes. I mean, Broadway is, and Ken Silvestri or Bob Gruba has said that to me. It's like, we want to have fun, and they do. And Curtis Koke is a great addition to their team. And it's been a year. I can't believe it's been a year, but that is right that he's been with them and doing the social media stuff. So awesome.
Yeah, and they've been a great supporter of the podcast, and really great to have them back on here. And last time they gave us that layout lightning thing, and it sat in my office in a box, but I wanted to play with it so bad. And I promise I didn't, but it was here. And I was like, oh, it'd be so cool to hear this thing go off. So, but they went to a good home, and I think on the other side of the globe, I think it either went to Australia or New Zealand. So there's a whole bunch of storms going on over on that side of the globe, thanks to Broadway Limited. But the list just continues again. And of course we had Amherst. So, I mean, there were so many announcements going on and things, between announcing that, the national convention in Chattanooga was one of the big announcements. That's definitely cool. So we'll be looking forward to 2026 down in the volunteer state. But for now, tell us what's going on here in February.
Well, speaking of Amherst, I did want to say, because I did get that information from John Sacerdoti, the 2024 show, total attendance for the 2 days, 22,600 plus was the last count. And when you count in the vendors and the people there, you're at over 26,000 people.
Oh, yeah.
And as John mentioned, they don't like, well, I went Saturday and Sunday. So did I, vote early, vote often? No. That you got counted once. So that really, I mean, that's amazing. And Sunday's weather, I think that was the other thing John had mentioned, that the weather was a little sketchy on Sunday, and Sunday's never as strong, I think, as Saturday for any of the shows, but still big numbers. So again, 22,600 plus for the 2024 Amherst. I mean, it is the show to get out and see. So yeah, I wanted to start off by mentioning that. Since we were talking to Curtis, there were a couple of things I wanted to recap there on Broadway. Those Pennsy heavyweights you can find on Broadway Limited's website in the HO rolling stock passenger car section. If you want to see more information on those, we talked about the 5-packs of those new heavyweights, and they are individuals. So if you were interested in that open platform observation car, I did see that those will be available independently as well as in that 5-car set. The other thing I wanted to mention is that HO scale 70-ton 3-bay offset hopper, which is a beautiful little model. There's a new run of those available, and Stephen Wilder at Smokebox Graphics, you know him, don't you?
I do.
Right? Yes. Yep. He has got 2 exclusives. One is prototype. It's a mineral red Grand Trunk Western car with white lettering. And then the other one, the one I've got that I'm going to have a review of in Model Railroad News, is his Detroit and Illinois Eastern, his home road. And it's cool. A beautiful little car. It's a black hopper with white lettering, and it has a white and red little Herald logo on the side. And I was not aware that was happening, and I heard from him on that and was excited to see those. So that's a exclusive run for both the Grand Trunk car, and his home road is available only through Smokebox Graphics. You can find them smokeboxgraphics.com. And I think it's right there on the homepage right now. You can see the hopper car and find out more on those.
Awesome.
Atlas, the new run of HO and InScale SD35s. This is their Atlas master model that it's been on the market about 20 years or so between the two scales. There's a new run of those coming that will have the SP signature light package put on its nose for the first time ever. And that's a neat thing for the SP folks. And that's announced from Atlas, who's, this is their 100th anniversary for Atlas.
Yeah, they got a birthday cake at Amherst. They got to hear John Sacerdoti lead "Happy Birthday," and that was a really nice surprise for those folks over at Atlas. And congratulations to them on 100 years.
Absolutely. In my collector consist in Road Model Craftsman, I'm doing Atlas anniversary, some high points in their history, and the first one of those is landing now, the March 2024. Craftsman. It's got a beautiful Dan Munson shot on the cover of a couple of Northern Pacific FTs. in a real rocky type mountains shot coming out of a tunnel. That's the one to look for. And in my collector consist, I do the birthplace or the origins of contemporary Atlas. And I cover basically the period from the mid-90s forward where the Atlas we know today was formed and how the models came about there. So little plug for one of the other side things that I do for another White River publication is Craftsman, that
Awesome.
quarterly thing. And Atlas has asked me to do, I'll be on with their crew doing live shows for each of those collector consist pieces this year. So I'll have quarterly live shows. First one's not scheduled yet, or I'd plug that date where I will share models and talk about Atlas history with the folks there on Atlas. So be watching for information on that on my Model Train Resource Facebook page and website. How about a 1/160th SD40-2?
1/160th. I think that's N scale. Aren't we correct there?
That is in scale. And we have an invasion of SD40-2s.
Wow.
Intermountain, I talked with Chris Palomares just a couple days ago, and their first ones, a Santa Fe Yellow Bonnet and a Milwaukee Road, are in, and they have more road names coming in, but that's a new run for their in-scale SD40-2. Kato just announced early phase SD40-2s, which they've done those before, but a new run of those with about 4 or 5 road names. That's Kato in scale coming out this spring.
Wow.
And in the mail right now, in fact, my reviewers were already asking, hey, has that come in yet? And I said, nope, sorry, the box didn't show up today. But the ScaleTrains SD40-2s in scale, and this is a first release from ScaleTrains. So again, another SD40-2. And then, of course, in our last month, we talked about Bachmann showed early examples of its new in-scale SD40-2. And and Broadway Limited, I've got reviews of their latest run of in-scale SD40-2s coming up. So, I mean, again, it was the most popular -2 second, generation EMD, and there's always room for a model like that. But wow, in scale, this may be the year of the SD40-2 for in scale, and they're all over the place.
You're going to have lots of choices when it comes to SD40-2s.
Absolutely. And like I say, the ScaleTrains, I know a lot of folks are interested in that because it's a first run for it, and that Bachmann will be new tooling a little bit later. I already looked on Walthers information for their National Model Railroad build-off for 2024, and I don't think I'm eligible. I was hoping there was a category or something that I could enter that was keeping the item in the box. I don't see it anyplace.
No?
So, no, but I do. It's a build-off, so I guess, yeah, it's not just what could I buy and put on my shelf. So, but if you've not participated in that before, there's all kinds of giveaways. It's on the homepage for Walthers right now, walthers.com, and you can go to walthers.com/National Model Railroad Build-Off, and they've got all the information, all the prizes, and all the ways that you can get involved in that. It looks like a fun contest. And
sure.
I think they've been doing that for the last couple of years. But, and like I say, I'm going to have to, when I see some of the Walthers folks at shows and things, ask them, what about us collectors that we, that's what I need is a category for who can fill the most blue tubs.
I think they may have the 2025 National Dust Off, where you dust off the boxes, and whoever does it the nicest job of that. So
there you go.
Hang in there, Tony. They'll take care of you somehow.
That's a fun deal, though, and I applaud Walthers for doing that. They do a lot of those neat things. So Walthers.com. The other thing too, I got 3 samples of these last week. The new Walthers, and this is their Walthers track line, grade crossings. There's 3 of these. Like there's wood, concrete, and I'm trying to think of what the other one was now. They come bagged. They're injection molded plastic sections that you cut up, and it's a typical centerpiece between the rails and the 2 sides for like a grade crossing across a railroad track. And you're like, yeah, well, so what? Well, take a look at these though, because they do the new concrete pad ones, They've got nice detail. They do come in gray molded plastic, so there'd be a little bit of painting to do to them, but these really are nicely done. And Walthers recently added some of the standard, like the old crossing buck and other things are also available in HO scale as accessories to go with those. But these new grade crossings, that's always a challenge, I think, to make those look good and come up with something neat. And these looked really nice. I'm eager to break these open and get a review of these and see how they come out finished. But you can go to walthers.com and then search Walthers Track grade crossings and HO, and you'll see the three. They're nicely priced, and they're looks like a very useful accessory.
Yeah, the three options are the modern wood grade crossing, which is just a regular wood. And then you have a wood with railer ends on it. And then you have the concrete one with railer ends. So 3 great options from Walthers. Very cool. I love grade crossings almost as much as 50-foot high cubes. I love grade crossings.
Rapido Trains is getting on the bus, which almost sounds like a cop-out. But no, it's, Jason Sharon, I think he has that fishbowl bus, like that he's made models of in HON. And Jordan Smith from Rapido emailed me today about their plans and asking me about Kansas City. And they're also going to be in Dallas, kind of in areas that I would be around. And they're doing a bus trip. And if you go to their website, it's rapidotrains.com and look for the Big American Bus Trip is what they're calling it. And they're taking that bus out on the road. And I think, kind of promoting their products and other things. I need the map is on the website. And like, as I say, I think they're cruising through, I'm in the south part of Texas, but they'll be through the Dallas area, I think this spring or early summer, and then in Kansas City as well. So I'm going to try to make it to one of those 2 spots to see them as they make this run through. So maybe this is their attempt to follow up to the ScaleTrains, the RV trip. So maybe everybody has to,
hit the road. But it's great to see these companies doing that. You learn so much at the foot of the customer. And, we talked to Shane Wilson about that and, the success that he had. And I'm sure Rapido with their fans as well, with awesome opportunities to see them in Chicago, St. Louis, Tulsa, Oklahoma City, Dallas, Albuquerque, Phoenix, and then Los Angeles. So they're going to be putting some miles on that bus and going out and seeing some folks.
Yeah. And then I broke open 2 new boxes of samples this week from them. The 73-foot National Steel car center beam is out, and boy, is it good looking. And I see that quite a few of the road names are already sold out at Rapido, as you might expect. This is a center beam freight car, which you see those all the time in North American railroading. This National Steel car is a 1987 and newer prototype. I had tons of pictures as I went digging, thinking, I'm sure I probably had pictures of these. I had more than I had realized in my prototype files of stuff, just me shooting them by chance. Cars are beautiful. The one thing I want to say that I was so excited about them, the samples as I went through all of them, absolutely like no damage, because that's such a fragile piece. Yeah. And those I thought, boy, there's so much detail on these as I'm, first one looks good. Second one looks good. I mean, I thought there's no way. And they were absolutely perfect, well-built, beautiful. They've got a really nice packaging system that I think is serving them well on this. It's a typical plastic 2-piece inner tray with the center beam car, of course, to sit in there with film underneath it. But in addition to like snapping shut on the top and bottom, in between the posts of the center beam car are like 6 additional points for it to snap shut. So that car literally can't go anywhere in that box. And this is a heads up to anybody getting these, or if you've got them coming, as you're opening it, be careful, because it really, and I said this, I was messaging with James Wright the other day. I said, hey, when you get those center beams, they're beautiful cars. I was thrilled that all of them made it through great. But I said, as you're opening these up, be careful, because you'll start popping the top and the bottom of that lid thinking it's going to come off. And then it's like, why is it still stuck? Mm-hmm. There's another row of snaps in between the center beam posts to hold the car in place. But wonderful packaging, great car. There's about a half dozen road names. For sure, check it out. Then that new B70 series Pacific Car and Foundry box car is available, and that's a Southern Pacific Cotton Belt. There's some Golden West. I have an Ontario Northland, and then a couple of neat patches to those blue Golden West cars from Rapido. I haven't gotten to bust those open and look at those yet, but they look really nice. That's a 50-foot double door like lumber car. And that's also the car that Chris Palmieri used for his first run with Rapido of his home shops cars. And they're a neat set of about 6 of those cars. So both go to rapidotrains.com to see those new SP cars. Go to homeshops.net to see Chris's new group. And I've got a video on my Model Train Resource YouTube channel that Chris goes through and talks about the different the freelance railroads for those cars. But it's a neat group of cars, and a real. I remember seeing those cars all over, like the Moffett line and such, in the late 80s, early 90s, in like lumber trains out of the Pacific Northwest, that between the center beams and those double door box cars, you certainly put together a great version of that train that I remember seeing so much of.
He was another busy guy there, Chris. He was busy all weekend at Amherst selling these and all the other cars that he's offering. He did, like I said, he was very busy, but I was able to sneak over there and get my superior transfer version of this, which is Jim Abbott's from Highball Graphics, his freelance railroad. So it was great to do that. Jim's been a great friend of the podcast, so it was great to get that car and add it to my collection.
Well, and too, Chris, at Amherst, before I let that one go, he said freight cars from Tangent, Exact Rail, Intermountain, Rapido. He's going to have a locomotive.
Tony, he's got 50-foot high cubes on his table.
Well, yes,
he had 50-foot high cubes. Yeah, I know the locomotive's exciting to you, but he had 50-foot high cubes. I can't wait to put that Michigan Interstate car on. I tried to sneak it away, but I got caught. Yeah, Chris doesn't look like he's intimidating, but when you start taking stuff off,
it's suddenly it'll get you. Yeah, he's going to have Rapido's beautiful C30-7 in V&O.
Yes,
the Virginia and Ohio, the blue and white. And it's not in the YouTube video thing, but he knew of it at the time, but he didn't want to spill it yet because it was ahead of Amherst. But I've seen the drawings and stuff for it. And wow, this is amazing that he's going to have a freelance locomotive, which opens a whole new.
Oh, yeah.
Eager to see what he'll do next with that. But keep up with him at homeshops.net and be watching for information, because he did say that would be a limited production, and it'll be a blue and white V&O, Virginia and Ohio, for Alan McKellen's railroad from Rapido when those C30s come out.
Very cool.
I can't believe all the brass. There's so much brass anymore. I don't know what I was saying this to my dad this week in a phone conversation we were having. I feel like brass is having this amazing resurgence. And there always is, Fred Hill at the Koch yard is always working on passenger trains, great releases like that. But boy, every time I turn around, there seems to be a bunch of new stuff announced. Like Ed Austin and the North Bank line has been doing business cars, and they've got another group of those coming out. They're doing some Burlington and Northern Pacific steam locomotives in HO brass. They're also doing the City of Kansas City, Wabash, Norfolk, and Western train, as well as it had a fluted side open OBS car that they'll be doing in Amtrak. And Adolphus, which was Anheuser-Busch's private car, was that same car. So those are all coming from North Bank for brass. And the Division Point really surprised me with an announcement they made about a week or so ago that he's got a new partner, and I'm forgetting his name now, who's going to be working with him for the diesel shop line of the Division Point. And you can go to divisionpoint.com to see updates on their brass projects and on like their Newswire thing. He talks about this, but his plan is for this diesel shop would be direct sale and through a limited group of dealers of contemporary motive power replicas. Basically, new motive power as it hits the rails, they would have a brass replica produced for it. Wow. Which is and that was a typical Overland models was always, like when a Jeep 50 was new, Overland, or you'd see a brass model of it like way before there'd ever be even talk of a plastic model. So that was kind of a neat thing to see. But and Division Point 2 has just done that big UP turbine. They have some NW, I think, 3s, that big long switch engine with, I think, Blomberg trucks like Great Northern had. And of all things, I see an announcement there in brass for UP's giant Century 855 A and B units, which I assume they'll do. I think SP had both. I know UP had them. There's one that, it's a DD35s. I think that SP only had the cabless, but I think they had both on that big Alco. But that's coming. And if you're looking, some of those, like North Bank, always, they buy ads and you can find that stuff in Model Railroad News. But if you go to Matthew Dowd's resourcerails.com, he's a great dealer to look at because he's a dealer for all these different brass lines, and he has reservations and stuff nicely set up on his website. So if you're wanting to see some of the kind of the roundup on all that's happening in brass right now, resourcerails.com is a good place to go. But again, that was interesting news. And then I have a couple of book things I wanted to promote for White River Productions. You know that I produce magazines for them. Dale Sanders has a new Rio Grande hardcover book that's coming out. It's got an early bird special right now. I think it's due in April is when it's actually going to be out, if not sooner. But this is, Dale has maybe done 3 books for White River of those like coffee table type, beautiful color books. And this one is kind of a revisit to his earlier book in that group of 3, but all new pictures. Really should be interesting. Dale also has got a great Alco book coming, but it's not announced yet, so I can't talk about it. But shop.whiteriverproductions.com and look for the Rio Grande hardcover book from Dale Sanders, and we do have the other ones. I think we're still listed there too. But awesome stuff. I always love those kind of books, and Dale is bar none in the business of presenting that kind of stuff. I can remember, first seeing, I'm trying to think what was one of the first, it was when he was with Hunman, and I'm trying to think what the book was, but I remember the Milwaukee and a couple other books that he did way back. This probably would have been maybe in the 80s or early 90s. And I thought, wow, this is about one of the best laid out books I've ever seen for the way the just the pictures on the page, the maps. I mean, Dale turns them into art. So yeah, this new Rio Grande book is available from White River. And then the other one, I was so surprised by this. I asked, and I hope I'm saying this right, I need to ask him. In fact, here's somebody we need to have on the podcast, Ray. I need to write this down. Rudy Garbely, and I think it's Garbely, Garbely, Garbely Publishing.
It'll be that for tonight.
have you? It'll be that tonight. So if I've mispronounced it, Rudy, he'll quit giving me books now. But go to Garbely Publishing and look up these Buffalo Creek. They have 2 volumes. I think they're both soft cover books. I just went through the second volume, which is 1950 to basically the end of the Buffalo Creek. And Buffalo Creek, the only thing I ever knew about it was I think I had 2 or 3 different 40-foot HO boxcars, typical boxcar red, and they say Buffalo Creek with that circle herald with the bag of flour was part of the railroad's herald. I knew nothing about it, but I always thought it was odd for a railroad to in the circle write Buffalo Creek and then just have this white bag of flour as their herald. And I didn't really know anything about the railroad. So when I saw the 2 books come out, I'd asked Rudy for the second one because it covers, they had little Alco switchers made up most of their fleet. Their Buffalo, New York is where they operated. And the book says they're the first terminal railroad in the country. And you think about it, every city basically had, like St. Louis has the terminal railroad, Kansas City, here we have KCT. I mean, everybody's got a railroad like that, but the Buffalo one supposedly is the first. I think it was Lehigh Valley and Pensy were kind of its partner. Those terminal roads are always kind of a combination of roads set up a road in a city, but just really interesting. And the thing I thought was fun, those ubiquitous 40-foot boxcars, and I think like AHM, Bev Bell, I don't know that Athearn ever had one legit, in their regular line, But if you go to a swap meet or anything and start looking, if there's a pile of 40-foot boxcars, you'll probably find a Buffalo Creek one at some point. And it turned out maybe it was in the late 50s, were having trouble with car loadings, not getting cars back. And they served the flour milling industry there in Buffalo, New York. And it was kind of an early version of the 1970s, like rail box or incentive per diem cars. So this little bitty railroad bought like 1,000 40-foot boxcars.
Yep.
So that they would have boxcars and then rent them out. But it's a great story, covers all of that, and it seems like it's a fantastic railroad to model. I review the book, I think it'll be in April or May's. I think it's going to be in May's Model Railroad News. And I review the book, and that's the thing I mentioned is this would be such a great little railroad to model because you'd have all these little Alco switch engines, the mills and stuff that you'd switch to, and nothing but an endless fleet of 40-foot Buffalo Creek boxcars as kind of the backbone of it all. But, a fun deal, but a great book, well put together. There's like 2 or 3 authors that did that, but that's Garbely Publishing. Or Garbely. We have to have him on now. That way he can
come on and straighten us out.
Make fun of me for mispronouncing his name.
Yeah, he can come on and straighten us out and get his pronunciation figured out. So, yeah, for sure. Awesome. I love these.
They do great stuff. They do great stuff. Go to their website. If you're not interested in the Buffalo Creek, go there anyway because they've got like C&J, Conrail, Lehigh Valley, D&H, kind of that New England Northeastern stuff. You will find a book that will interest you. And that I think it's store.garbelypublishing.com.
The comprehensive catalog of Conrail cabooses. I thought that was pretty cool.
Yes, that's a good book. That's an excellent book too. Yeah, I have a copy of that. But there you go. And that's not even half of it. We could keep talking for hours with the laundry list of things I have out of Amherst and everything else. But there's a few things to consider.
Well, if you're a fan of any major manufacturer, go to their website now because after Amherst, they likely have a new announcement, a new release, and of course, pick up a copy of Model Railroad News. Tony will be covering all of those releases in the next few months, I'm sure. They're not going to stop. It's just going to keep coming and coming and coming. That's why we get to have the opportunity to get together monthly and have all new things to talk about. So we enjoy it.
Absolutely.
And now it's time to Ask Tony. This is where you, the listener, get to ask your model railroad questions to the editor of Model Railroad News, Tony Koch. This month's question comes to us from Eric Piacelli.
Hey, Ray and Tony. Eric Piacelli here. Back in 2019, Atlas announced they were going to be doing another run of Alco S2s in HO scale. They're showing on their production schedule that the pre-orders have closed. They're in the yellow grouping. Not sure whatever happened. Were they a victim of COVID? Do they still plan on releasing them? Looking for the Lehigh, New England ones they announced. Thanks a bunch.
I know him. I put a picture of him and his son, I think, an HO collector in the last few years. They were at some train show or something, and I can't remember what, but wrote me a question asking about something or another. But yeah, no, father and son modelers. I thought these were out. When I heard that question, I thought, I think those have been out. And then I went and looked, and no, they're not. There's an in-scale run. There's an HO run. Eric, I know, is an HO guy. I don't think he mentioned the scale, but I'm pretty sure he's talking HO. The in-scale one does show for third quarter delivery. Same road names in both scales. There's Canadian National with the noodle in white on the side of a black unit with kind of the red nose. There's a nice kind of maroon colored Chicago Great Western. There's a black Erie. There is a Maine Central with the red chevrons on its nose and a black unit. There's a Bloody Nose Southern Pacific with gray. And then the one I think Eric mentioned was that Lehigh in New England, which is black with a white band on it. And yeah, I got curious on this. That's a classic Atlas piece, that little in-cab S2 switcher. I think Atlas has knocked out that whole run of S1, 2, 3, 4 over the years. They've made revisions to it, improved the cab. I think this version is supposed to come with a vertical shutters, which would be the 2 radiator shutters on the front of the side of the nose was maybe a new revision or addition to this one. And I got curious on that, why it showed to be announced, and it was kind of a question too. So I went to the source. I talked to a vice president at Atlas today on this and asked what the situation was. And they said it still is, that they had juggled some things around with their 100th anniversary for some products that they were kind of fast tracking. But rest assured, these will be coming both in silver, sound ready. So it'll be ready to drop a decoder in with the speaker already in the mechanism. And then the Master Gold Edition will be DCC with ESU. And there's 3 road numbers for those road names announced. But his expectation was probably by the end of this year. But yeah, definitely has fallen behind a little bit there, but still on the way. That's a classic switcher. That was, I think Atlas, that was their return to Roco. After Roco first did that run of EMDs in the mid-1970s, in the 80s, they first went to Roco to do these in-cab switchers. And then Kato did that RS3 and RS1 for the Atlas line in the 80s, and then some Centuries. Now this switcher, they've retooled and updated it several times over the years, so it doesn't bear a lot of resemblance to it, but definitely a classic Atlas piece for sure. But yeah, those are on the way. They will be here, but it's probably going to be no sooner than end of the year. And that's atlasrr.com is where you can go to Atlas's site. And if you look at the tabs across the top, there's a production drop down that will frequently give you, if you go to that production drop down, there's production schedule and archive. I always like the archive because I can go back and they'll show you like every run of, like a Jeep 7 or something. So you can see,
right.
Did they ever do that road name before? Have they done this paint scheme before? That archive is wonderful. All their scales are represented, HO, N, O, and now Z, with the little Evans car coming in Z scale. But yes, indeed, Eric, that it is still coming. In fact, the person I talked to at Atlas today, he was trying to get in his reports. I heard him clicking and going through stuff as we were talking. And he said, no, I can't. He said, I was hoping I had it on an updated shipping report, but I didn't have an exact, but still coming.
Well, that's good news for Eric. Thank you, Tony, for doing the research on that one to get an answer. To have your question answered on an upcoming episode of What's Happening at Model Railroading, go to aroundthelayout.com/ask Tony. Follow the instructions there to leave your voice message, and we'll select up to 2 questions each month, and yours just might be the one heard and answered here on the show. So, Tony, it's been another great What's Happening in Model Railroading show. We got to talk to Curtis Koke. We got to talk about all these awesome releases. We reviewed Amherst a bit. We answered some questions. We just got a lot done here tonight, so I appreciate you stopping by. Tell us, where can we find some more Tony Koke material?
I post regularly on Facebook on both Model Railroad News, HO Collector, Diesel Era magazine Facebook pages. Also, my Model Train Resource has a website, modeltrainresource.com, YouTube channel under that brand too, and Facebook as well. Videos all the time, just quick things on unboxing, like I unboxed the Smoke Box Graphics Broadway Limited hopper was a new video that came out in the last few days. So yeah, check all that stuff out. The magazines that I do for White River, you can find out more by going to shop.whiteriverproductions.com.
Awesome. We'll provide all those links in the show notes and also on the Facebook post on the Around the Layout Facebook page. Tony, thanks again for stopping by and giving us the news.
Absolutely, Ray. Thanks for having me and looking forward to it. I can't believe next month will be our visit for March already. Wow.
Thank you for joining us for this episode of Around the Layout. Learn more about today's show on our Facebook page, facebook.com/Around the Layout. Show your support by becoming an operating crew member at patreon.com/Around the Layout podcast. Past episodes and more can be found on our website, aroundthelayout.com. And send us your feedback, aroundthelayout@gmail.com. Thanks for hanging out with us around the layout.